The Charlotte Roval strikes again, a race that historically has been chaotic, produced playoff drama. It's taken a break the last couple of years, but today it was very much back. They made some changes to the racetracks. We saw a couple playoff drivers get into trouble. We saw some guys who we thought were going to be comfortable, some guys who we thought were going to just cruise on into the next round. They had to struggle, and Tyler Reddick, wow, he just had a crazy, incredible comeback today. So let's get into it first by talking about the changes to the Charlotte Roval. Then we'll get into the race today. It's the elimination race at the Charlotte Roval. Ever since the Roval has been put into existence back in 2018, it has been an elimination race, whether it was the end of the round of 16 or the end of the round of 12. So after today's race, we cut 12 down to 8, but here are some of the changes that were made to the racetrack. You can see the old map. You can see some of the changes. In green there is that portion of the infield that we used to go through. We used to go just kind of flow through there, but they made the change and we went to this little outer straight and then did a little bit of a turn, and we have a hairpin down at turn 7 when getting back onto the oval, and that was the biggest change. The infield chicane on the back stretch and the chicane on the front stretch, those were changed a little bit. The front stretch chicane got the biggest change to where it was a sharper turn to make it for a heavier braking zone, more of a passing opportunity. And then there was another change overnight. The turtles, those turtle shells were doing some damage to the drivers. And whenever there's damage done to the drivers, NASCAR makes a change. So after the drivers complained, said their heads were hurting after hitting the turtles, NASCAR made the decision to chop them off, essentially. Go down to smaller curbs to help limit the damage to the drivers, to help reduce the impact they had hitting those curbs and coming back down and hitting the ground very hard. They listened to the drivers. I applaud NASCAR. Good call. But on to this other big change, turn 7. Turn 7 was crazy. We saw it in Xfinity yesterday. We saw it today in Cup. It was an opportunity for dive bombing. That is exactly why this corner was made. It was made for a passing opportunity. The past couple of years at the Roval have been rough. This next-gen car does not race well at the short tracks and the road courses. So in an effort to make the race better today, they added turn 7. An opportunity to dive bomb, an opportunity to pass. And I will say it did make the racing better today. But as expected in 2024 NASCAR, where it is all take and zero give, emphasis on the zero and zero give, we saw some silly moments. We saw 4 wide dive bombs. We saw guys sliding into each other. Tyler Reddick about ruined his season trying to pass Denny Hamlin and a couple other guys when he locked up his rear tires, slid into Denny Hamlin, got airborne, damaged his car, broke his toe link. And that could have been the season for Tyler Reddick. And that's the big story today. Tyler Reddick was the regular season champion. Go back to Darlington when he finished 10th and won the regular season by 1 point. That ended up saving him today because he got 5 extra playoff points due to winning the regular season championship compared to finishing second in the regular season championship. Those 5 points saved him because he advanced by 4 points, but it was not easy. He entered this race plus 14 on the cutoff line. He's a great road course racer. We expected him to advance, and honestly, I expected him to advance with ease. Not the case. They stepped on their own feet a lot today. Tyler Reddick won stage 1, 10 points, outgains everyone in the points, including Joey Logano, who was next to the cutoff line, but he only outscored him by 1 point because Logano finished second in the stage. Then stage 2 happens. And Tyler Reddick, as I said, very dumbly, I don't think dumbly is a word, so stupidly, decides to send it. Due to the fact that there's cautions at the end of the stages once again, Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, and those who stayed out for stage points had to essentially start at the back of the field. A bunch of guys ended up pitting at the end of the stage or prior to the end of the stage, and they got the track position. But Reddick, Elliott, Logano, all those guys started in the front to mid-20s. Well, Tyler Reddick, trying to make up track position, just loses his car. He about takes out his team owner and Toyota teammate Denny Hamlin, but he catches air, lands hard, has damage to the car, has a flat right rear tire, and has to pit. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh my gosh, Tyler Reddick's about to get eliminated. Tyler Reddick's about to be done. They're going to have to fix this toe link. The car's broken. It's never going to get back to the pace it had early. They're going to go laps down. It's over. The regular season champion's going to be out of this thing. Not so fast, my friends. Tyler Reddick and that 45 team, you got to hand it to them. They could have panicked. They could have overreacted. They could have freaked out. Tyler Reddick could have once again drove in over his head, and he did technically once. We'll talk about that in a second. But they rallied. They fixed the car up. They got the toe link fixed. They got the tires back, and they made a strategy call. There was a caution after the pit cycle with about 30-ish laps to go, I want to say, where Austin Dillon lost a tire. His tire did not get fully attached. It went off onto the racetrack. As a result, that's a caution. Billy Scott, crew chief of the 45 team, made the decision to pit. Let's put Tyler Reddick on the offense. We don't want to be on the defense. Let's just put fresh tires on this thing, see what he can do. We're in a pretty tough situation. The guy that Tyler Reddick was fighting for that final spot was Joey Logano. Joey Logano ran in the top 5, top 10 most of the time, or most of the day, and he was in the top 5 at the time of the caution. So Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano can make up 3 spots if he doesn't win the race. That's 3 extra points. Meanwhile, Tyler Reddick, restarting at the back of the field, he can make up a lot of points. So this restart happens, and Tyler Reddick is minus 14. And everyone's talked about how difficult it is to pass in the next-gen era at road courses and these short tracks. Well, Tyler Reddick made a run. The last 30, 25, however many laps of this race there were, went green. Tyler Reddick, slowly but surely, pass. Almost take out Daniel Hemrick. Did take out Daniel Hemrick. Pass. All of a sudden, minus 6, minus 5, minus 4, minus 3, minus 2, minus 1. They're tied. So they're tied with about 12 laps to go. And at this point, it's kind of over. Reddick is steadily making his way through the field. Logano's dropped a couple of positions, and Logano's not making those positions back up. Reddick's continuing to climb. Unless there's a caution, this thing's over. We've got our Elite 8. And that's exactly what happened. No caution fell. Logano dropped another couple of positions to Allmendinger and SVG, who were on fresher tires. Reddick made up 2 more spots, I think, and Reddick ends up making it by 4 points. I talked about that regular season championship. If Tyler Reddick finishes 11th at Darlington on that Labor Day Sunday, he finishes 2nd in the regular season standings, and he loses 5 of those points. He misses the cut by 1 point today. Puts a lot of stuff in perspective if you think about it. So Tyler Reddick, an incredible comeback by the 45 team today. And Joey Logano's team, they didn't do anything wrong today. They actually had a really solid day. They made up points on that cutoff line. They ran in the top 10. They scored stage points. It's just they had too big of a points gap to overcome. Talladega last week, that crash, that was the difference between them advancing and not advancing. Let's look at the results of this race, then we'll get into our playoff breakdown and whatnot. We'll talk about each playoff driver here. Kyle Larson obliterated the field today, led 62 of the 109 laps in this race. He wins his 6th race of the season. Last time he won at the Charlotte Roval was in 2021. Of course, if you remember correctly, he won the championship in that 2021 season. His 6th win of the season, the second most wins by anyone this season, is 3 by Denny Hamlin, William Byron, and Christopher Bell. So Larson has doubled all those drivers' win totals. Larson adds 5 more bonus points to his resume going into a round of 8 with 3 tracks that he is incredible at. As if he needed the extra bonus points. Well, in this format, you might actually need them. But Larson going to a track he's won the last 2 at in Las Vegas, Homestead, Miami, a track that he has a great history at, and Martinsville, a track he's done great at in the next-gen era with a win in 2023 and a runner-up this past spring. Larson's got to be feeling great heading into this round of 8. We'll talk about him more tomorrow on the Monday after when we do our post-race Monday live stream. Second place, Christopher Bell. They did everything they needed to today. Both Larson and Bell, they were making it. They weren't mathematically advanced till stage 2 or stage 3, but they would have had to crash on lap 1 and everyone would have had to finish top 10. Like, it would have taken a nuclear disaster to eliminate these two. But Bell did everything they could. Second, great job. They advance. William Byron was already advanced to the round of 8 entering today, so no pressure on him. He finishes third. Austin Cindric eliminated. Gonna look back at Talladega last week. They got bumped wrong, wrecked with the entire field, and if it wasn't for that wreck, even if they finished second in that race, they have a really good shot of pointing their way in, and with this result, they probably would have, but ultimately they finish in the 30s, they crash out, and they couldn't point their way in. They had to win, and they had to settle for a 4th here today, so Austin Cindric eliminated. 5th place, Chase Elliott, they did everything right today. They entered this race right on that cut line at plus 13. They scored stage points in both stages, ran top 5, top 10 most of the day when they weren't back in the pack due to strategy calls. A 5th place finish for Chase Elliott. Once again, they did everything right today. They advance. 6th place, AJ Allmendinger, the defending winner of this race, led some laps early on, led some laps in the middle. Looked really good, but ultimately a different strategy there just kind of prevented them from fighting for that win. It's a 6th place finish. What a day for Shane Van Gisbergen. Led the first 21 laps of this thing. Looked like he was going to be a dominating force. Then the strategies get a little bit wacky. At one point, he gets spun out, goes to the back of the field, and then at one point, when coming back through the field, takes someone out with him. Well, he didn't take himself out. He just wiped someone out. They had a bad pit stop at some point, I want to say. Or maybe that was the 16. I can't remember. But Shane Van Gisbergen rallies back. They run this alternate strategy with Allmendinger at the end of the race to put fresh tires on and go on the attack, unlike the Xfinity race yesterday, ironically. And ends up getting a top 10 out of the day. Solid day for him. 8th place, Joey Logano eliminated. Once again, as I said earlier, Logano, they did everything right today. They got a top 10. They scored stage points. Just, they entered today in too big of a hole. And that's ultimately what cost them. It's not really much else to it. It's last week. 9th place, Bubba Wallace. A great day for him. Usually struggles on these road courses, but he has slowly been improving. Another top 10 for him on a road course. Ryan Blaney advances. They did what they had to do. Quiet day. They advance. 11th place, Tyler Reddick. We talked about it a lot earlier, but he won stage 1, picks up a playoff point for that. But despite the problems they had early in the day, when they stepped on their own feet, when they wrecked themselves, when they had their problems, they had to fix their race car, they were able to overcome those problems, and these playoffs have been horrific for Tyler Reddick. The regular season champion is cursed in the next gen era, I'm telling you. But Tyler Reddick, prior to today, in the first 5 playoff races, one finished better than 20th. One. That was the 6th place at the playoff opener at Atlanta. Has not finished in the top 10 since. Got an 11th place today. Got a couple of 20ths and then I think a 26th, I want to say. It's been a terrible playoffs for Tyler Reddick and the 45 team. They have to pick it up at Vegas, a track they ran great at the spring. They can't afford another round like this. They don't have the points to lean on like they have these first 2 rounds. It's go time. They have to pick it up. They have to fix whatever their problems are. They got to have a team meeting, slap someone in the face. Okay, don't actually slap someone in the face, but, reset. They got to reset. What they did through the summer, they got to get that 45 team back. Because if the 45 team from races 1 through 6 in the playoffs comes back, they have no shot of making the championship 4. They got to get it together. Straightforward. No other way of putting it. They know it. Everyone else knows it. Carson Hocevar, 12th. Spun out a couple people today, but 12th place. Good for him. Kyle Busch, 13th. Denny Hamlin, 14th. Barely survives. Was running in the 20s for a good chunk of this race, but some strategy calls, and then they get up in the top 10, but at the end of the race, they had enough points to give, so it's like, why fight anyone when they attack you? Like, don't risk wrecking yourself, just survive, and that's what they did. Michael McDowell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Chris Buescher, Alex Bowman did nothing today, and it was enough to get them through. Todd Gilliland, Zane Smith, Harrison Burton, Martin Truex Jr., Josh Berry, Brad Keselowski, Daniel Hemrick, Ryan Preece, Justin Haley, Kaz Gralla, Ross Chastain, Josh Bilicki, Daniel Suarez. Pretty irrelevant most of the day. Made a strategy call to get them up in the top 10 at one point, but They were just bad today. Rough round for them. Eliminated. Noah Gregson, Austin Dillon, Eric Jones, John Hunter Nemechek, Ty Gibbs had a mechanical failure. Chase Briscoe wrecked out early in this race. They had a tire go down. They had some damage. They had some mechanical problems, and that ended their day and therefore eliminated them from the playoffs. Corey LaJoie had an engine issue on lap 3. That ended his day. So, your Elite 8 in the NASCAR playoffs, if we call it that, is Denny Hamlin, Alex Bowman, William Byron, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, and Tyler Reddick. Joey Logano is still alive in the Owners' Championship. I got to admit, I'm not sure who missed it. Oh, the 45. So the 45 is out of the Owners' Championship, but they're still in the Drivers. But the 22 is still in the Owners, just not in the Drivers. It's confusing. It's always confusing. That's what happens because Kyle Larson sat out that race at Charlotte. Okay, that's a joke. Don't yell at me, please. But your Elite 8 is set. Kyle Larson dominates today at the Charlotte Roval. Decent race, I thought. More passing opportunities, I thought, with turn 7. Yes, we saw some chaos. It got a little bit silly. But for the most part, a solid race. Definitely better than the last 2 years. But we saw playoff drama with Reddick. We saw Joey Logano try his hardest, but just not quite enough. And we go on to Las Vegas next week. The round of 8, the most normal round in these playoffs. We finally have a round without super speedways and road courses. We got a mile and a half, and a half mile. Beautiful. Tomorrow, the Monday after, we will once again talk everything from this Roval weekend. We'll do our normal Monday live stream. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the Monday after, and then anything else that happens this week. Next week, we got Vegas.